Now, today, guys, I'm feeling quite special. I sort of feel like the great Mark Max Muscle. Why? Because VOT Films just gave me my first video request. So he requested Peter Molnar versus Terrence Ruffin at the 2021 Arnold Classic. Now, in the Classic Physique division, at the 2021 Arnold Classic, we had no surprises as far as the winner because the favorite coming into the show, Terrence Ruffin, the 2020 Mr. Olympia runner-up, he ended up taking the championship home. But the guy with a lot of hype behind him, Peter Molnar, he placed all the way down in eighth, and a lot of guys were shocked by that. So let's compare him to the first place and see how he stacks up. Was he really robbed that bad? Let's find out. Now, in the front relax, we can see that, first of all, Molnar does have quite a significant height advantage over Ruffin. And but Ruffin is better structurally, in my opinion, because Peter Molnar sort of has that awkward Nathan Diasha-esque physique where his midsection is sort of long and his legs are shorter. Now, don't get me wrong, Peter Molnar is still very, very aesthetic, but I just think that Terrence Ruffin is more aesthetic and he has a better structure for a classic physique. And I would also like to mention that even though Terrence looks a bit soft in this picture, um, as Cedric McMillan and Dennis James mentioned during the live stream, it's more than likely due to the dark and black background. Because if we look at them from the back, you can see that Terrence does have strided and ripped glutes. So yeah, let's get into the mandatories. First of all, the front double biceps. Now, Molnar does have better biceps. I think that's fairly evident. They are just bigger and peakier as well. But apart from the biceps, guys, I would say that Terrence Ruffin is just better in this pose. Terrence Ruffin just has a better structure and he also poses better. Um, Again, guys, it's hard to tell due to the background sort of being a disadvantage for darker skinned athletes, but I would still say that Peter Moller might be in slightly better condition. You can see that from the muscle separation and just the hard grain look that Peter Molnar did bring to the stage. But still, overall, I'd still give this pose to Terrence Ruffin. His structure and overall physique, except for the biceps, they are just better compared to Molnar. Now, when we go to the side chest pose, again, I just do not like how Peter Molnar hits this pose for classic physique. Sort of feel like he hits this pose reminiscent of Big Ramy. Now, don't get me wrong, his chest is great, his bicep, which is better than Terrence Ruffin, is great. His delts are great, but overall, I just don't like how he hits his pose. When it comes to classic physique, I feel like you should have a bigger emphasis on looking aesthetic. And also the way he just bends at the knees just takes away from his height. So that's also a disadvantage that he's unnecessarily giving to himself. Another thing is the legs, guys, from the side and from the back. And it will be obvious as we go through all the poses. Terrence Ruffin just has quite a huge edge there. Quite a huge edge. So overall, even though Molnar looks great in this pose, I would still give this to Ruffin. Now, when we go to the back double bicep, it is clear that Molnar is in great conditioning. Now, again, his structure looks just a bit awkward due to his long midsection. So I would still say that structurally, Ruffin is just much better in this pose, but the way that his back is hard grain is separated, I mean, I just think that this is a great, great pose for Peter Molnar. But unfortunately, downstairs, I wouldn't say that Molnar is bad or terrible downstairs, but he's just no match to Ruffin, unfortunately. So overall, even though Molnar probably beats Terrence Ruffin from the back due to his better muscle separation and just looking that much harder, when it comes to the overall pose, I would still give this to Ruffin. Just a slight edge to Ruffin. I wouldn't say that he convincingly beats him in this pose, but I still would say that he does beat him in this pose. Anyways, the ab and thigh. And now, guys, again, Molnar looks harder and more separated in this pose. And I would also say that he at least matches Ruffin in the abs. But, guys, the structure and the lats as well, I would say that Ruffin sort of has bigger lats that are more or lower inserted. So structurally, I would say that Ruffin definitely has an edge. But again, Molnar, he looks great in this pose, and even his legs looks great from the front. Just unfortunate that they don't look as good from the side and the back, or at least not compared to the 2020 Mr. Olympia runner-up and the 2021 Arnold Classic champion. So yeah, guys, this one I would say is quite close, but I would still give a slight edge to Ruffin due to him just looking better structurally. Um, and that was all the mandatory poses, but I'd figure I would include all the poses that I could find. So the side tricep, and I think that Ruffin should be really happy that this was not a mandatory pose, at least in this comparison, because man, oh man, Molnar just smokes him. Everything from Molnar's incredible striated chest to his huge tricep to his huge delts. I mean, Molnar is just insane in this pose, guys. Insane. So, if this pose was a mandatory pose and if it was judged, I would say that Molnar definitely would beat Ruffin in this pose. Now, guys, the front lat spread, I couldn't find one of Terrence Ruffin, but I figured, let me just show you guys. Molnar's front lat spread, it looks great, why not? So, here we go. Now, in the back lat spread, again, guys, structurally, Ruffin is just better. And downstairs, I think I've said enough about that. But again, Molnar, I think he just has great muscle separation in his back, and he just looks harder in my opinion. But they both have great conditioning, so if this was a pose, I would still give this to Terrence Ruffin, but not by a long shot. I think they are fairly close in this pose. And lastly, I wanted to include a classic pose that they both hit in their individual routines. And again, guys, you can clearly see from this comparison that Ruffin he's just superior structurally. Um, again, Molnar, he has a very tiny waist, but just his long midsection and short leg just sort of throws off his flow. But still, guys, I mean, I'm comparing him to the 2020 Mr. Olympia runner-up, so I wouldn't say that he has a bad structure or that he's unesthetic, but just compared to Ruffin, guys, it's just doesn't match up, unfortunately. Just does not match up. And finally, one last thing that I wanted to discuss, this, guys. Now, I mentioned throughout this video that I'm not a really big fan of the way Molnar hits his poses. In the classic physique division, you're supposed to try to hit them more aesthetic and not really hit them like a open bodybuilder, but somehow, guys, Maybe Molnar is just not that accustomed to the classic physique division yet, but he'll probably get there, guys. He'll probably get there. Um, and also, this photo is just to demonstrate how obvious that is because he hit this pose after judges called out your favorite classic pose, and obviously, a most muscular is not a classic pose, guys. So yeah, guys, he just needs to work on that, but he looks great here. And also, a second reason for why I included his pose is because the guy to the right of him, he actually placed seventh. That is Danny Yunan. And I don't know, guys, but I think that Molnar just might have gotten robbed a bit. He might have not have gotten robbed as bad as the guy who requested this video comparison would think. I don't think that Molnar had a shot at placing first, but placing seventh, he might just have gotten robbed. But I'll do that comparison, so we'll find out. But still, in conclusion, the winner, guys, Terrence Ruffin, obviously. I don't think this comes as a shock, but Peter Molnar, he was great. He was great. So yeah, that's it, guys. Leave a comment below. What do you guys think of this comparison? Do you guys disagree with me? Do you think that Molnar actually did have a shot at the 2021 Arnold Classic title? And do you guys think that he should have placed higher than 8? I mean, I certainly think so. So in my next video, I will do a comparison between him and Danny Yunan, which placed one spot above him in 7th. So that was it, guys. See you guys later.